No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 297. And breaking right now, slippery Starmer's political prisoner Lucy Connolly is a free woman.
Breaking news to bring you now. Just hearing that Lucy Connolly has been released from prison. Lucy Connolly has been released from prison.
Because Lucy Connolly, who was jailed for stirring up racial hatred against asylum seekers online on the day of the Southport murders, according to the Crown Prosecution Service, she has been released from prison.
Lucy Connolly, we just heard, has now been released. We think it was quite a few hours ago, but it has been confirmed she's been released. So that is good news, breaking news there.
Now the housewife and grieving mother who spent 380 days in prison for a single tweet that she deleted within hours after the Southport Massacre is, I believe, about to become the authoritarian Labour government's worst nightmare. This sort of revolting talk really did backfire.
You will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online and then running away themselves.
Now, I spoke to Lucy in the minutes after her release in the car with Ray, her Tory councillor husband, and her precious daughter Edie. I'll tell you what she had to say about her plans in my digest next. Then, my superstar panel weigh-in. Free speech advocate and CEO Kezia Noble, host of the show UK Now on Q News, and social media sensation and social commentator Leilani Dowdy. Also coming up on the show today, Woke ITV decides illegal migrants behind a sickening crime wave and sexual assault on your daughter are the victims. Ayaan Hirsi Ali backs Tommy Robinson in a significant intervention after his trigonometry interview. LBC decides that James Bond must indeed be female, even after feminist Helen Mirren says don't be so damn ridiculous. And Eamonn Holmes forced to apologise in another GB News free speech row after saying Kerry Katona looks oriental and what the woke media is describing as a racial slur. We'll debate. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, the Daily Mail's deranged campaign against Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has stepped up a gear with a new hit piece from Liz Jones. So what is really going on? We're joined by royal YouTube sensation, according to Taz, and you can sign up to watch at www.outspoken.live. It's the last Greatest Britain and Union Jackass reveal of the week before the end of the show, because then we put our 4 Union Jackasses head-to-head to be named the worst Britain in the world this week. But here are your nominees for today. You can vote in the live chat on YouTube. Dan Jarvis, nominated by Sarah Booth for looking an absolute glibbering idiot whilst unable to answer questions from Emma Barnett about where the government will put illegal irregulars, as they call them, post the Epping injunction. Delicious squeaky bum moment in a car crash interview. Bet he wishes he was back in the paras. Angela Rayner, nominated by Lut Mans for sucking up to Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister. And Zia Yusuf, nominated by Darren Donaldson, the Reform UK chairman, for spreading lies about Robert Jenrick. So 3 interesting choices there. Get voting. Let me know your thoughts throughout the show. I'll read out your best comments before we go. Lots of reason to stay with us today. But now, let's go. Slippery Starmer's ultimate political prisoner, Lucy Connolly, exited prison today after 380 days behind bars, and she exited to a changed Britain. She knows that too. Remember Lucy, a grieving mother and housewife who was locked up for a solitary tweet deleted within hours after Axel Rudakabana's Southport Massacre was the example this authoritarian Labour regime used to try and shut you up and shut me up. They wanted to use Lucy to terrify us into permanent silence, all while rapists and paedophiles and terror offenders were spared prison. But it hasn't worked. As the increasing migrant hotel uprising and Operation Raise the Colours has so gloriously proven. Now, I was honoured that the first people Lucy called on that journey out of HMP Peterborough today, where she was despicably manhandled by guards, was myself and Alison Pearson, my friend and partner in crime who has worked so hard to bring the real story of Lucy Connolly to the world. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, yesterday, Lucy didn't know how she would face the public again. Understandably, she has been left deeply traumatised by her barbaric and inhumane treatment in the hands of an out-of-control government. But today she got her fighting spirit back. She got her strength back as soon as she was reunited with her husband Ray and daughter Edie. And my sense is that with the Trump administration watching on, she's about to become the worst nightmare for two-tier care. Because I can tell you that Lucy has been following the events up and down the country, and she knows that the mainstream media can no longer be relied upon to tell you the truth, even as they drove her release to the top of the news agenda today.
Breaking news to bring you now. Just hearing that Lucy Connolly has been released from prison. Lucy Connolly has been released from prison.
Because Lucy Connolly, who was jailed for stirring up racial hatred against asylum seekers online on the day of the Southport murders, according to the Crown Prosecution Service, she has been released from prison.
Lucy Connolly, we just heard, has now been released. We think it was quite a few hours ago, but it has been confirmed she's been released. So that is good news, breaking news there.
But much of the media still disgraced itself, as Nick Dixon pointed out. Note the very different headlines from the relatively decent Telegraph, so their headline, Lucy Connolly released from prison pretty straight, versus the pure enemy, BBC, woman jailed for race hate post released from prison. But here's the thing. Once you hear from Lucy, you will know that this narrative of her as some type of far-right racist thug attempting to spread violence is nothing more than a hard-left fairy tale. She is you. She is me. Just a human being, a patriot deeply concerned about her country being destroyed in front of her very eyes. I'm proud that Outspoken has been Lucy's biggest champion from day one. When the entire MSM, and by the way, and not everyone likes to hear this, but it includes the Daily Mail, GB News, and Talk TV, when they were horrendously deriding her, joining that pitchfork wavy mob. This is what I had to say about Lucy Connolly. So, Lucy's 12-year-old daughter, without her mother for up to 2.5 years. And I say anyone who thinks that Lucy should be locked up when violent men who attack women at petrol stations for not dressing conservatively enough, or when people like Hugh Edwards receive no custodial sentence for making child pornography, well, I think if they still think Lucy Connolly should be behind bars for such an extraordinary long sentence, then they have truly lost the plot. But the sick and twisted authorities are having to come for women like Lucy, one of just 400 so-called rioters or social media criminals who are being locked up. And they're doing it because their far-right bogeyman is nothing more than a figment of the imagination. And after that, I got to know Lucy's husband, Raymond Connelly. He is a highly respected Conservative councillor, absolutely adored in his community, and a very good man. He came on Outspoken and told me this.
I went into the corridor and I went into the advocates' chambers. And I went in there and the advocate's there, and I said to him, he's there with his wig on and his black gown, and I said, "What just happened just then?" And he looked at me and just said, "What do you expect when you've got a dictator running the country?" So that's where the journey started, and 9 months later, we're here again.
What do you expect when you have a dictator running the country? Slowly but surely, over the past 9 months, and with the help of my friend Alison Pearson, we have been able to prove to the British public that Starmer has locked up an innocent mother for political expediency. Who can forget our Prime Minister's almost deranged comments, which I believe were clearly designed to influence the judiciary?
Utterly condemn the far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online and then running away themselves.
The principles that I would apply. Firstly, I'm strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very, very long time and we protect it fiercely. I'm equally, though, against incitement to violence against other people. That has long been an offence in our country and rightly so. And so I say, don't know the details of this case, but free speech, yes. Incitement to violence, no.
Lucy didn't incite violence whatsoever. The words of her tweet included, "For all I care." But what's great is that soon former Prime Ministers were speaking out in support of Lucy Connolly.
In the very week when it has been decided that Lucy Connolly must serve her full 31 months in jail, even though she's a young mother with no previous criminal record, the Labour government has announced that it's going to release literally thousands of serious sexual and violent offenders because they say there's no room in our jails. Well, Shabana Mahmood, Justice Secretary, if you want to empty one jail cell and release one person who presents absolutely no threat to the British public, then free Lucy Connolly now.
This goes back to the point I'm making about the judicial system.
Yeah.
If we are clearer about how judges are appointed in our system, it's obvious judgments have to be made on a case-by-case basis, according to the evidence. And we might not know all the details, Dan. But the problem is when the system is so opaque and people don't understand how people are appointed, what the procedures are, that is when you can lead to questioning of individual sentences. I mean, I think it is about restoring accountability to our system so that people understand who is responsible, because at present, that is simply unclear.
But what is clear is that the deep state wanted to shake Lucy up behind bars. They wanted to stun her, terrify her into silence, which included a terrible episode where she was manhandled by prison guards, her mistreatment even being raised in Parliament.
That individual, whilst in prison, is allegedly the recipient of some violent maltreatment in prison, including being manhandled to the ground, handcuffed to the point where bruises 5 days later are significantly present on their hands. Imagine them being then dragged up not one, not two, but up 3 flights of stairs to the naughty girls' wing, as opposed to having been a model prisoner, having been promised to be taken to the good girls' wing. This is, of course, the consequence in a distant democracy where you think this cannot surely be valid. But, Mr. Speaker, it is with regret that I must bring you back to the reality of the situation, that actually this is the United Kingdom, and in the last few months, this has occurred.
What's even more shocking is that the persecution of Lucy Connolly was personally signed off by Starmer's Attorney General, Richard Hermer. And most appallingly, it went against Starmer's own guidelines. As the Daily Telegraph reported today, he had previously suggested that people who swiftly deleted offensive social media statements should not necessarily face criminal action at all. In 2013, when Director of Public Prosecutions, Starmer introduced guidance for prosecutors to consider a more lenient approach towards suspects who swiftly deleted social media posts and expressed genuine remorse. Lucy Connolly did both. The guidance urged prosecutors to consider 4 factors where a prosecution is unlikely to be both necessary and proportionate. These included if swift and effective action has been taken by the suspect and/or others, for example, service providers, to remove the communications in question. But we know why. He wanted Lucy Connolly behind bars to shut you up and to shut me up. But Lucy has now become a figurehead for Britain's free speech betrayal. As Nigel Farage posted on X today, "Welcome to freedom, Lucy Connolly. You are now a symbol of Keir Starmer's authoritarian, broken, two-tier Britain." Rupert Lowe, who has invited Lucy to Westminster, added, "Lucy Connolly, today is the day she finally comes home. What has happened to that poor woman and her family is evil, no other word. The family know that I will support them however I can, and I look forward to welcoming Lucy to Parliament for our debate. Today is a good day." Tommy Robinson added, "Lucy Connolly has now been released. Now release the rest of the political prisoners." And indeed today, I think it was only the deranged hard left that was still intending to attack Lucy, with anti-Brexit virgin Femi Olawale posting, "Today the UK right wing welcomes home a terrorist with open arms. Tomorrow they'll claim to care about national security to justify targeting black and brown people. Lucy Connolly was one of the instigators of the most widespread terror crises in years, right-wing terrorism." Now, after that, let me tell you, I hope Lucy Connolly sues Femi Olawale's ass into oblivion. And here's the most important thing. America is now watching, with Trump's favourite newspaper, the New York Post, reporting that the UK faces a free speech crackdown that sees up to 30 people a day, including the brilliant Bernie Spofforth, arrested for petty offences such as retweets and cartoons. Some of the Trump administration's favourite journalists, including Charlie Kirk and Matt Walsh, have now taken up Lucy Connolly's cause.
To be clear, Lucy Connolly was not threatening to commit any act of violence. She wasn't saying that she was about to go out and torch a migrant hotel or kill any politician, nor did she tell anybody else to do it. There was no imminent threat of violence. She was expressing frustration, as she has every right to do in a free country. But the UK is not a free country, which is why Lucy Connolly, for the crime of sending that one tweet, was just sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. 2.5 years in prison for that tweet. Now, you may have heard about this case, especially now that the Trump administration says that it's monitoring, quote unquote, the situation. It's also been picked up by a few different outlets. But to really understand how pathological and disturbing this prosecution is, you need to see some of the details behind Lucy Connolly's appeal, which was just rejected by a panel of 3 judges.
A lady called Lucy Connolly, since you've been here.
Of course, I talked about her yesterday, and no one knew what I was talking about in Cambridge.
Who are you talking about? The students didn't know.
I mentioned her because I did the research. My team did an amazing job, and I think she just had her petition denied
in the last hour or so today. It's Tuesday today. She's had her appeal denied, so she's going to be carrying out her 2.5-year sentence for a solitary tweet.
So outrageous.
Which she deleted 4 hours later. What's your take on the whole situation?
Well, I'm going to try to get the U.S. State Department involved. I don't know if what their bandwidth is here, but I'm sorry, again, I'm speaking as a citizen, not as a U.S. government. I just want to be very clear. Is this a way that a liberal democracy and an ally of the United States acts? Just to be clear, what she said would not be any prison time in America.
No, it's not. It is not how an ally acts. And it's not a country that invented... It's not how a country that invented free speech should be acting either. And trust me, there remains much to fear here in the United Kingdom, with another major US pro-MAGA voice, Tim Pool, suggesting that the UK is conquered. This was after a young man was said to be arrested for saying that he loves bacon, a statement which is apparently offensive to Muslims. Watch.
Okay, we want bacon. Why? Because I like bacon. I say he likes bacon. Oh. I'm not Are you getting this record?
So at this current rate, there will be many more Lucy Connollys. But something Lucy told me today is that she has been heartened to see the increasing patriotism and beautiful fight back being conducted up and down our country, including this long embrace of the St. George's flag.
Oh, sorry. Follow him, boys. Follow him.
Right, you can't be much want to let these ones go. Keep going.
Wait, I'll come back. Stop watching.
Last two, thank you.
Cover him, don't let the old Will see him.
Picking up butts. There you go, legend. Let's go.
Way! Hold on, boys, on the flag, Jack. Cover him up.
Raise the colours indeed. And writing today in The Spectator, Rod Liddell summed up the situation best by saying that Slippery Starmer almost certainly thinks that people with too fond an affection for the Union Jack and the Cross of St. George are right-wing racists and entirely deplorable. Filed away in the back of his mind is the notion that it's probably just those football hoolies again, the ones who rioted last summer. What he is missing then is the importance of the current protest, the weight of numbers behind them, the fact that it is not just your usual suspects, the depth of anger it conceals and the problems which thus lie in store in the future. The UK is quickly tipping towards serious civil disorder in many parts of the country. Whitey has had more than enough. A clever government would work out why this might be and do something about it. Unfortunately, Rod Liddell says, we do not have one. Now, two-tier Keir believed Lucy Connolly was going to become a symbol of staying silent, a symbol of shutting us all up, shutting us all down in the disunited kingdom. But I argue that the opposite has happened. Her unjust imprisonment has made her a free speech martyr, whose voice I am convinced will soon become a big part of our national debate. Now, the superstar panel. And it is wonderful to have Kezia Noble and Leilani Dowding with me today. Leilani, Lucy Connolly is free. And she exits prison, I think, not just a free speech martyr, but someone who could cause serious embarrassment to Keir Starmer on the world stage.
I absolutely think so. To me, she is a hero. She's done time that she should never have had to do. It's completely, it's inconceivable to Americans. And it should be inconceivable to us that this would happen for something that she put up and then took down within 4 hours. I can't wait to hear her on your show and then hopefully hear her on everyone else's. She gets a platform to, really give her side of the story. I want to hear why she wasn't given bail. I want to hear, I saw Julie Hartley-Brewer tweet that she was told she would be remanded in custody for maybe up to a year if she didn't plead, which would obviously influence somebody, who's got a child. She probably, I'm sure the duty solicitor gave her pretty terrible advice saying it, but, when you look at people who have done far worse and ended up with suspended sentences, maybe she thought that by, pleading guilty, she would get, she wouldn't be put in jail. They would be leaning on her for coming forward. So I want to hear her side and see what happens. And I think that, as you said, it's wonderful that Matt Walsh, Charlie Kirk have, championed her cause. I hope to see her on their podcast. I hope Megyn Kelly speaks to her. I really hope she can get out her side of the story. And when people hear it, I think they are going to be even more disgusted in this government. And we must remember Peter Lynch, who
God
was killed in jail.
Soul. God rest his soul.
Exactly. And, he'll
Wayne
never get a chance. Wayne O'Rourke, who's still
behind bars. Julie Sweeney remains behind bars. And it was all of these great people. This is the thing. It is the mainstream media who has absolutely taken on Lucy Connolly's cause after we did a lot of the work. And of course, I support that. But there's a lot of people like this good woman who they are completely forgetting. Kezia Noble, you are a free speech advocate. Well, I know for a fact that the US administration, the Trump administration, are looking very closely at Lucy Connolly. And I think this could put Slippery Starmer, remember, who lied to the face of J.D. Vance in the Oval Office, lied to the face of Donald Trump at Trump Turnberry. I think it could put him in a very precarious situation.
I agree. And I think that we need to see this as an opportunity to take a deep dive into the poison which is in the system. We're just looking right now at the government and we're looking at Keir Starmer. And I know the buck stops with him, but we need to look at how this poison has now become part of the judicial system, even the prison system, journalism, the councils, the local councils, especially the media. This is not, he can't do all this unless he has the cooperation.
100%. Well, they're working together. They are absolutely working together. And I refuse, Kezia, to say anymore that we have a justice system. I believe we have a judiciary, and we have a judiciary that Keir Starmer proved is absolutely under the control of the deep state, because there is no reason when you look at the law that Lucy Connolly should have been remanded in custody. Lalani Dowding, I think what's really interesting, though, is that it's only the hard left nutters now who are anti-Lucy Connolly. I mean, we saw Narinder Kaur today. I mean, Femi Olawale describing her as a terrorist. I want her to sue his virgin ass.
I agree with you, Dan. I mean, it's ridiculous that she was never put on terrorism charges. That was never part of it. So to say that is, is untrue. I hope she does sue. But, as we know, the problem with that is it takes a lot of money to do that. And, she's being locked up for, the amount of time she has. So I hope that, I also want to say that it's wonderful that she's had this GoFundMe to, to support her, because, she's not been able to work. She's not been able to support her family. Maybe she can use some of that
and
to
there are
actually
legal fees.
do something
There are
nice.
legal fees. Even today, she was talking to me about the latest bill that had come in for, thousands and thousands of pounds. So there really are a lot. I mean, can I just get you to respond, Kezia, to Narinder Kaur? Let's look at what she's had to say today. If you believe that Lucy Connolly was jailed for a tweet, then you also believe that incitement to racial hatred is acceptable behaviour. You do. End of. She quite rightly pleaded guilty as she had pled not guilty. I can guarantee she would have been sat in prison for several years given the context of her tweet, which was viewed over 300,000 times, and people did go and set alight hotels. Not to mention the fact she had tweeted racist tweets before, and she said she had played the mental health card. A reminder what the judge said: Lucy Connolly endangered life. Now, Kezia, I sat in the High Court during the appeal hearing. What Narinder is saying is just completely untrue. That the post was deleted days and days and days before there was any disorder outside any migrant hotels.
And also, all she actually wrote was "for all I care."
Yes.
She has no power. This is just a mother of one. She's not in charge of a party. She's not part of a party like Ricky Jones was. And I would say that all Lucy Connolly needed to do was just to add the two magic words at the end of her post, which is Free Palestine. Because when you add those two words, Free Palestine, what happens is it gives you complete absolution from all sin. That's all she really needed to do. The good thing about this, and there is just one silver lining, is that the person who is representing her legal solicitor, he's not going to have much work after this. I mean, who's going to be employing his services?
Oh, 100%. I mean, she was very, very badly let down. Yeah. Very, very badly let down. Because remember, Leilani, if she had ever faced a jury, she would have been able to tell them quite honestly the reason that she was so impacted by what happened, by that terrible crime committed by Axel Rudikabana, that act of Islamist terrorism. And yes, I do call it that, Leilani, even though the mainstream media won't, because the bloody cretin had downloaded an Al-Qaeda manual and was preparing ricin at his house. Okay, so it was an act of Islamist extremism, in my opinion. And remember, if she'd gone up in front of a jury, Leilani, they would have heard that the reason Lucy Connolly was so devastated is that she had a son, Harry Connolly. And Harry was 19 months when he died. And he died, Leilani, because of NHS neglect. And so Lucy Connolly knew what those parents of the victims of Axel Rudikabana were going to have to go through. I'm sorry, no jury would have ever convicted her, Narinder Kaur. No way.
I agree with you, Dan. I don't think they would have. Look at Ricky Jones. He did far worse. He was a far more influential figure than Lucy Connolly, as Kezia said. Just, you know, a mum with a little kid, and she probably has PTSD from what happened to her child. I don't know how a mother gets over something like that. You know, I've lost a dog.
You never do.
And that's the worst that's happened to me. I've lost a dog, and that devastated me. So a child, to me, it's unimaginable. So for this to have happened to these children must obviously bring her back to losing her own child. So she said something in anger. You know, it wasn't anywhere near as aggressive as Ricky Jones. And if a jury was happy to, you know, allow him to give his excuses that he gave, you know, because he may have got a racist comment back when he was a child, which is one of his defense arguments.
Oh, yes.
I don't think they would have, any sane person would not have, you know, found her guilty. But as I said, she wasn't allowed bail. It's huge. It really would mess with somebody's mind to say, for someone to say, we're remanding you in custody, you cannot go back and sort out, you know, anything that you need to do back at your home. We're going to keep you here. We don't know when your trial will be. You're just going to be locked up here. That's going to really affect somebody's, you know, somebody's state. And, you know, then to see that at the appeal, that was denied. You know, there, as Kezia said, there really is something wrong with the judicial system and the media, and it's a whole, you know, entity working together with this narrative. And as we saw, I think that it's very plain now that Keir Starmer is happy to go after anybody that kind of goes against his establishment narrative and the establishment narrative. And, you know, as long as it's only things that affect us peasants, like crime or pedos, then, you know, forget about them. We'll give them suspended sentences. Even if they plead guilty, they can have a suspended sentence, and we'll just, you know, really come down on those people and make an example of them that really rock the establishment.
Now the mainstream media want us to believe that it is the illegal migrants, the rapists, the terrorists, the murderers who have come to our country on small boats. The mainstream media wants us to believe that they are the victims. And there is a major campaign going on in our regime media after the Eamonn victory in court over the Bell Hotel. It was centered around this dude, Qadar Muhammad. He's on the front page of the Daily Mirror. a Somalian illegal at the Bell Hotel who said he and others have no idea what will happen to them, saying that all so-called asylum seekers are being tarred with an unfair brush, and telling the Daily Mail, "I regret it. I wish I hadn't come here." Well, I'm sorry, Kedar Mohammed. That's the point, mate. We don't want to put you up in 4-star hotels because, unfortunately, we can't take anyone. You might be, a decent bloke. I've got no idea. But the vast majority of people coming across in boats are criminals. But Woke ITV decided to make this Somalian illegal the focus of their coverage last night. Watch.
How was it being in the hotel when you saw the violence outside and the protesting?
Scary, like that's the only word to describe it, scary. Nowadays it's a bit calm, but in the beginning it was so violent, A lot of guys took some beating, in the beginning. It's scary. Now it's just, it's an emotional thing now rather than a physical thing. It's just painful, emotionally painful now.
Have you got a message to the residents of Epping and the local area?
Yeah. I would say please give us a second chance. Please treat us the same way you treated us before the incident, because we are the same people. Before the incident, you didn't view us as criminals or anything. You were okay with us before the incident took place. We are the same people. One person doesn't change us. What one person does not, represent us or what we are. That's what I want to say to them.
And a message about having to move. Do you want to move?
Please, I say, please don't move us, because if you move us, everyone else will want to do the same to us.
I'm sorry, this is far more than one individual, and this PR campaign ain't going to work. But it's certainly the message the elite class is pushing. Look at this debate between Fraser Nelson, former editor of The Spectator, and Matt Goodwin. So Fraser Nelson, he's on the left. I'm sorry, he is on the left, posted, portraying every migrant as a sex pest, whipping up protest mobs, thrilling at the potential for ethnic violence, pretending that whites are dealt with more harshly by courts. It's untrue and irresponsible, says Danny Finkelstein. But as Matt Goodwin responded, nobody is doing this. The only thing that's happening is liberal centrists like Fraser Nelson, Danny Finkelstein, Rory Stewart, are slowly realising they backed the wrong horse. And everyone can see it. The liberal globalist project is over. Liberal Toryism is DEAD, dead. And the left's bid to try and shift this imposition onto all men, denying empirical evidence that it is illegal immigrants to this country, that it is these foreign nationals that are committing these crimes by far, far greater proportions than the native population, is what they are trying to do. Case in point, Humza Useless, the horrendous former leader of Scotland, believe it or not, although he only lasted 5 minutes because he's so useless, is saying, no, he's got no issue with the illegals. It's just men. It's just men overall that are the problem. Watch this.
The Tories are telling us that we have to protect our children from asylum seekers. Well, as a father of 3 girls, let me tell you that it's not asylum seekers I'm worried about when it comes to my daughter's safety. It's men, predatory men, who come in every colour, every religion, are from every background. Of course, those who do commit heinous crimes against women, be they asylum seekers or those who have lived in the UK for 10 generations, they should and must feel the full force of the law. But when you purposely single out asylum seekers, as the Tories are doing, you're not interested in protecting women. You're deliberately trying to fuel hatred. You're reviving the old colonial lie that people from the East are somehow dangerous savages. This isn't just rhetoric. we've seen exactly where it leads. It turns fear into mobs who are ready to set fire to hotels that are housing asylum seekers. It leads to bricks through windows. It leads to firebombs aimed at vulnerable families who've already fled war and persecution. And here's the truth. Violence against women is committed by men from every walk of life. Blaming asylum seekers doesn't make women safer. It just makes society more divided, more suspicious, more willing to turn on the most vulnerable. What the Tories are doing isn't about women's safety. It's about stoking fear. It's the oldest populist trick in the book. Let's make sure we don't fall for it.
No. You are a propagandist, an irresponsible propagandist, Humsey Eustace. I mean, let's just talk facts. When you look at it per capita, here is the sexual assault graph by nationality right up the top. Afghanistan. Right down the bottom, look at that. Right down the bottom, tiny. The United Kingdom. But of course, the lefties want to claim that anyone who has an issue with this, anyone who describes themselves as being a proud Brit, is in some way racist. Look at Matthew Stadlen, that utter loser on GB News.
With the massive increase in legal and illegal immigration, in families coming over and things of this sort, that goodwill, that good nature of the British people has broken.
There is no such thing, by the way, as the British people. This is a phrase used by the likes of Nigel Farage to try to...
What on earth do you mean?
I mean that the British people don't think as a lump. We don't think as a lump. For example, you and I have very different views.
Stop,
well, you know this. Reform have got, what, 30% of the vote. So please don't talk about the British people, because you and I are both equally British, and we have very different views on certain things.
But what is happening is the Overton window on issues like this has changed significantly. It really has, and it's changing fast and moving faster. The phenomenon of flags being put up and down the country.
That's just so pathetic, isn't it?
Well,
I am as patriotic as the next man and woman.
I disagree with you.
I am as patriotic as the next man and woman. I do not feel the need to go and start putting flags on lampposts, but I don't feel insecure about my Englishness.
I don't feel secure.
I love our country.
Great.
It's got problems. I don't need to go and shout from the rooftops.
Hold on,
I do when I go to sports games, by the way.
Stop a moment.
Oh, my God. And then we have more statistics out today proving that Labour have done nothing to smash the gangs. In fact, migrants in hotels have gone up 8% under this administration. Lani Dowding, Kezia Noble on the Superstar panel. Lani, I mean, why do the mainstream media continue to gaslight us, continue to try and put forward this concept of the fact that these men who are arriving illegally in boats, committing huge amount of crime, are the victims?
Well, I think the thing is, and it's very obvious now, is that they are just the propaganda arm for the government. That's all the mainstream media is. And fewer and fewer people are believing them. I've been posting about not paying my TV license because I refuse to watch the BBC. Why should I pay about it? And the amount of people that have actually said, I'm not paying mine either. I'm not doing it. People are sick of it. They see through it. You know, that guy was on ITV saying, I just saw the beatings because the presenter was feeding words into his mouth. What beatings did you see? None of the migrants got beaten by anyone outside the Bell Hotel. That's just simply untrue. It's a load of hot air coming out his mouth. And this is what the mainstream media want to keep portraying and saying to us that they're all these like poor little victims. You know what we don't want is we don't want to be paying for these men, and they are majority men, to be put up in these 4-star and 3-star hotels or British housing, because now they're looking for 5,000 British homes to put 20,000 of these people in. And we've also got to stop calling them asylum seekers, because they haven't had their asylum processed yet. So they're still illegals. They're still illegals. And you know what? They should be held.
But Lalani, regardless of what happens in the processing, they are illegals. They entered the country illegally from France. From France, which is a totally safe country. So it doesn't matter what happens during the processing. They remain illegals.
And they shouldn't be in hotels. They should be in, camps. We've seen you look at real refugee camps. They're tents. They're a safe space that anybody fleeing war would be happy to be in if they really were fleeing war. And I just want to point out a tweet that Kezia tweeted last week, which was, how many British men fled Britain when we were in the Second World War? How many of them just left, said, bye women, bye kids, I'm going off to another safe country? How many? None.
Yeah.
So, that was a great point.
Kezia, actually, yes. Let's look at this post on X from you, Kezia. You said, does anyone know how many British men left their women and children behind to seek asylum during World War II? Thanks. And of course, we know the only British men who left the country were British men who were going to serve.
Yeah, so I watched that ITV interview, and I felt like I'd woken up in a Monty Python sketch. There's a man on there who they could have at least picked someone with some better acting skills than him. And he's run away from a country which is run by gangs and militia, which is Somalia is a hellscape. Okay, there's a completely different culture to ours. And it's a direct confliction with our culture, anyone that comes from there. Doesn't mean all of them are bad, but the culture itself is in conflict with our own culture. And he's saying that he's scared, but he's come from this hellscape, but he's scared of being here. So what I suggest to him is that he finds a dinghy, gets on it, and gets out of here if he's that scared.
100%. Look, at the end of the day, this gaslighting from the mainstream media simply isn't going to work anymore. They have lost the argument. They have lost the narrative. And I genuinely believe that the British people are no longer going to take this absolute rubbish that we are seeing, because it's just ludicrous. It's just absolutely ludicrous. And the worst, by the way, is Paul Brand of Woke ITV. Breaking right now, Tommy Robinson has secured a significant endorsement in his bid to become an acceptable figure to lead the British Revolution, that of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, one of the world's most highly respected critics of Islam who lived through the hell of the Muslim Brotherhood. Her significant intervention came after watching Tommy Robinson's trigonometry interview, where she posted on X, just watch this, Robinson is brave, steadfast, and a hero of our times. Now, I believe that this was really significant from Ayaan, because when she was here on Outspoken last year, I asked her about Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage, because at that point there was this war raging, I guess it's still raging, between the two men, and what direction we need to take to save the United Kingdom. And I want to show you her response, but I would argue that she was coming down more on the side of Nigel, and her support of Tommy Robinson was lukewarm at best. Watch.
When the label xenophobe or far right or racist is thrown around, I find that not credible. So my instinct, my impulse is not to look at Tommy Robinson and think, oh, he's far right. I think that's he's labeled that way because of the issues that he's talking about and he's raising. But I think that the question you're asking is, should you do it through the political system, or should you do it outside of the political system in a radical, flame-throwing way? And it's not, I don't think we have a choice in this. I don't think you can sit there and say, you know, you do it the radical way, you do it through the... I would choose to do it through the system. I would choose to say, first of all, it's this system that's democratic, okay? The rule of law, the political culture that we have, we formed over many centuries, that's parliamentary. That's exactly what we wanted to preserve. That is what the radical Islamists wanted to destroy. So let's not help them destroy it. So let's do it through the system and get the majority we need to change the policies, to get to the policies that we need to get to.
But so much has changed in such a short period of time, and Ayaan Hirsi Ali now describing Tommy Robinson as a hero of our times. Here's some of that interview that changed her mind.
You've got to arrest him, stop him, shut down this, and then the government just go, and we'll just pander to them. So you've seen, and then now the country's seen it. You saw it on the Hamas riots. You saw them calling for jihad on the streets. Literally calling for jihad, and then the police are putting out a statement saying jihad has lots of different meanings. Well, not when it's coming from his, but to here it doesn't. Because that man saying it is part of a prescribed terrorist organisation in most countries, but not this pathetic country.
It is now.
It is now.
It wasn't at the time.
Again,
right.
It is now. Why now? Why wasn't it for the last 20 years? His but to here, every Islamic society in every university around this country was his but to here. So kids are going to university, and a terrorist group, because they're now a terrorist group, but they've always been a terrorist group. Just our weak, pathetic government didn't prescribe them because they didn't want to upset people. It's like mad. You don't upset them until they're calling for jihad, until they're openly saying the madness that we know they've been promoting anyway. Yeah, they've made universities total no-go zones for certain communities, and whilst jihad runs.
And how can you disagree with that hypocrisy? Tommy hadn't finished there.
What happened, Tommy?
A gentleman steps off the train at St Pancras, so he's ready to leave St Pancras. I come into St Pancras and I go to get my train. He sees me and he beelines for me. He follows me, but he don't just follow me, he gets here in my face. Yeah, he's in my face, he's confronting me, telling me he'll end me, telling me how little I am, screaming at me. I mean, screaming at me, yeah? Screaming at me. And I'm the whole time just going, mate, fuck off. And I do warn him multiple times. I said, look, and as I was watching, I'm paranoid anyway. I've just come out of 7 months in solitary confinement. Yeah? I'm pretty on edge. I remember for the last couple of months, I'm not myself anyway. Basically, he follows me for 2 minutes and he's getting him away and I'm trying to get round him and I get away from him once and he comes back after me again. And then I'll say to him, mate, if you come back in with my space, I'm going to defend myself. Because in my mind, he was just trying to get close enough to snake me. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I know what you're doing, but I know what you're doing. So I was trying to move back and I get to the top of the escalators at the stairs and he's following me. So now I think, well, he'll kick me downstairs. Yeah, I'm going down to a train. He'll kick me in front. And he was a big fella. If you look at it, he was a much bigger fella. It's not hard to be bigger than me, but he was a big fella. I then step back to let him go. So go on, you fucking go. Yeah, you go down the stairs. But he doesn't go down the stairs. He gets to the top of the stairs and he turns on me. This has all happened quick to me. I know I've had to defend myself. He's ended up asleep on the floor. I've only hit him once, yeah? I've pushed him, and then as he continued to come at me, the whole time I'm going backwards, but I couldn't really remember at the time, or straight afterwards. So as soon as this has happened, he don't look in a good state. Yeah? I'm thinking, right, I'm on London Underground, I'm on my own, crowds are going to come, this ain't going to be good. So I leave. As soon as I leave, I contact the police, which is the recording you would listen to. Contact the police and say, look, lads, this has happened. I've been walking, I've been accosted, I've been threatened, I've tried to get away multiple times. I had no option.
And perhaps what was most powerful, I mean, obviously that was him addressing the most recent scandal, but I think perhaps what was most powerful in the trigonometry interview was when he was able to prove that his message had been so consistent over so many years that it has started to prove so many of his detractors wrong.
I've got death threats threatening my family, and she said, well, I haven't got death threats. Do you know why I haven't got death threats? Because I'm a nice person. Yeah? And I said, try and talk about Islam, you'll have death threats. 7 years later, she spoke about Islam, and then she's sitting on Loose Women crying, saying, oh, I've got death threats. It's like, welcome to the real world, darling. Yeah.
What has happened to me through having this opinion and speaking out the way I do, it's destroyed my life, it's destroyed my wife's life, it's destroyed my mother's life. I live with constant death threats. I've got some of them here if you want to read when we talk about a two-tier policing system. I have to wear a bulletproof vest. I've got people wanting to murder me and massacre me.
Well, then stop being a racist and a bigot.
Racist? Can you Can you please explain one thing I've ever said?
I am a British citizen. I was born in this country, and I do not spout off rubbish like you do. Okay?
No, what am I saying that's rubbish?
I haven't got death threats. Do you know why? It's because I'm a nice person.
Please explain. If you talk against Islam, you'll have death threats.
In this culture, it's even more taboo, because once you bring shame to your family, that's it. You know, the consequences are you could be killed, you could be ostracised, and literally you just, you know, the whole family splits up. When I came on here to talk about what happened to me, it was a family member. It took me years to come out and say it, and I just did it spontaneously on Loose Women. The repercussions on my family have been horrendous.
Did some of them not believe you?
They didn't believe me. They had to go at my mum. You know, it went all the way back to Pakistan and the family there. So, look...
Which illustrates perfectly why, as a 13-year-old or whatever, you wouldn't come out and say something.
Absolutely.
Absolutely fascinating, and I think not a surprise that Ayaan Hirsi Ali has come out now so publicly supporting Tommy Robinson. Of course, for those who don't know, she is a Somali-born politician. She went through the hell, the absolute hell of extreme Islam, including, by the way, fleeing an arranged marriage. And of course, there was a fatwa against her after a very controversial film called Submission with Theo Van Gogh in 2004, which resulted in his murder. To my superstar panel, Kezia Noble and Lalani Dowding. Lalani, I mean, how on earth can you claim that Tommy Robinson is in the wrong when you had Syra Khan all of those years ago describing him as a racist? Mm-hmm. Then she speaks up about some of the terrible, terrible things that go on as a Muslim woman in the United Kingdom, where I believe she is now non-practicing. And she immediately talks about the ostracization that went on, the challenges to her family. I mean, I know there were many years between those two interviews, but fundamentally, she proved his point.
Absolutely. And this is what seems to happen with everything that Tommy has said. Time goes on and it looks like he was right about things. I watched that podcast. It's almost 3 hours long. And it was fascinating because they really let him delve into how he started and things that happened to him and his family in Luton, which was a rough town, which a lot of us would never, dream about and or have nightmares about even. And then, fast forward to now, what he is talking about in Luton, you see it down in Bournemouth, in my hometown, that used to be this like sleepy little retirement town. And you see a lot of what he's talking about with the knife crime and the rapes and everything, you see it happening there. So a lot of things that he has said, and he talks about them all on trigonometry have come to pass for everyone else in the nicer parts of the country than Luton. And I think it's a really important podcast to listen to. And I can see Constantine and Francis, their opinion is changing and their faces change in real time listening to him. And they do push back on him. They ask him about, his, violence earlier on and the football hooliganism. And so they give pushback to him. But when you listen to him, you're like, wow, he's grown up. He's now 40, not in his 20s, and he makes a lot of sense in what he's saying. And this is what I've said a lot as well, like the lady that you're talking about, who is advocating for these women. He talks about honor killings. He doesn't just bash all Muslims. He talks about Muslim women and advocates for them and the honor killings and how that are happening in Britain. Or Pakistani girls that are sent away to go and get married. He talks about all of this as well. And he talks about Saudi Arabia and UAE, who recognize the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist groups, and our soft governments still don't. He talks about that. So he doesn't just go pure, anti every single Muslim. He's talking about extremism, and he's talking about how, in the more moderate Muslim countries, they're not allowing these terrorists and extremists, which is probably why they come here where they've got safe harbor, and the 40,000 Islamist terrorists on a watch list in the UK, and 3,000 of those have to be followed 24/7.
Yeah, Kezia Noble, it was such a fascinating interview because, of course, Konstantin Kisin and Francis Foster, the hosts of Trigonometry, had actually been on the bandwagon, I guess, for some time of no, we're not going to have Tommy Robinson on. And I think their changing position, but also the full throttle support of Ayaan Hirsi Ali is part of this rapidly shifting Overton window when it comes to the acceptance of Tommy Robinson as an important force in the British culture.
100%, Dan. And I think that this is an opportunity where the right need to unite. That's something that the right struggle with a lot. So this would be a great time to see reform councillors and spokespersons at least be allowed to show their support. Because you see, he's speaking now for more and more people. His popularity is growing. Whether you like it or not, it is growing. And you can't ignore him anymore. You can't ignore his message anymore. You can't just sit there and hope he goes away quietly, because he won't. And if he does, his message will continue. So this is a point in time where the egos need to be put aside and we just need to unite, because his message is strong and it is growing.
Totally. And this attempt by the mainstream media to turn Tommy Robinson into a bogeyman, to pretend he doesn't exist, to only report on him when there's some type of criminal witch hunt going on or there's some type of court case going on, as Talk TV and GB News does. Unfortunately, I just think it speeds up your death. It speeds up the death of the mainstream media, because any serious media organisation in this country can't just ignore Tommy Robinson, but also can't just dismiss Tommy Robinson as a far-right thug. Because, of course, we're coming to next month's Uniting the Kingdom rally. What happens if, as Tommy Robinson predicts, there's 1 million in the capital city protesting peacefully? Just imagine if that were a left-wing protest, like the protest against the Iraq War in Tony Blair's days, which received wall-to-wall coverage. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how they deal with the next few weeks. Okay, the biggest dunce in the United Kingdom this week, and most weeks to be fair, is Sheila Fogarty, the hardcore feminist of LBC. Katie Hopkins' nickname, Fatty Fogarty, cruel and not mine, but there you go, has decided that James Bond must be a woman. Now, this comes after even Helen Mirren, who describes herself as one of the world's biggest feminists, ruled out that possibility in an interview as ludicrous, given the clue is in the name Bond. James Bond. But this is what Sheila Fogarty said during a typically bonkers appearance on her hard left LBC radio show.
Helen Mirren has said that she does not believe a woman should ever play Bond. And I disagree with her. The logic that Dame Helen Mirren was using was exactly the same logic that locked women out of many walks of life for centuries. That old-fashioned argument, women shouldn't be cab drivers, women shouldn't be bus drivers, women shouldn't be milk deliverers, women shouldn't be this, women shouldn't be that. I can't see any difference in the logic of that nonsense and the logic of what Helen Mirren has said.
Just imagining Sheila Fogarty as Bond. That madness even prompted the Sunday Sport newspaper to post on X once again, our spouting preposterous tripe crown is knocked from our heads. So it's only fair that I have a superstar panel of two women to debate this, Leilani Dowding and Kezia Noble. Leilani, why on earth would you want there to be a female James Bond? How on earth does it make any sense? Do you sign up at all to what Sheila Fogarty is putting forward here?
No, absolutely not. James Bond is a man. It's in the name, as you said. there's plenty of space for a woman spy series if they want to create one. But James Bond is a man. It's like you wouldn't have Harriet Potter. It's Harry Potter. You know, women can do whatever they want to do. It is not the same as a woman can't be a cab driver, or a woman can't be a milk lady, or whatever she's trying to say. That's real life. This is a book, and it's about a man called James Bond, and that's how it should be. And like I said, go write another TV show. In fact, there's a great show with a great lead actress, Lioness. That's all action and everything else. You want to watch some action? Go and watch Lioness. That's brilliant. You know, with a great lead, a strong woman, goes and fights, has guns, whatever. You know, it's ridiculous. We've got to stop with this woke nonsense. We really do. And most people find it stupid anyway. It's ridiculous.
Kezia Noble, do you support the idea of a female Bond?
As much as I support the idea of a man playing Wonder Woman, so I've read the books. You know, for your information, Timothy Dalton was the best Bond. Okay, it's not up for debate. He was. And I'm such a purist that even when Daniel Craig came along, I was like, he's too short and he's too fair-haired, because I've read the books. Okay?
No way! Oh my God, I love Daniel Craig as Bond. But okay, I won't debate it with you.
Proved himself, but he's not as good as Timothy Dalton. That's not up for debate, Dan. That's just a fact.
I wouldn't dare.
Having a woman would just sabotage a very successful franchise. It's extremely successful. Now, if it was on its knees, do what you want with it. It's a dead dog. You know, do what you have to do to get it. You can tweak it. You can experiment a little bit, which is what I love about the James Bond films, is that each one's a little bit different. They try something. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But if you put a woman there, it will sabotage such a successful franchise. And as Leilani said, for heaven's sake, if you want to see a woman kicking butt and, you know, being in the Secret Service, just make a spin-off. Just make a whole different film, and, you know, let the people who want to see that watch.
But the thing is, there are so many. I mean, there are so many shows. I'm going to be honest with you. Any new sort of action drama or thriller, either movie or TV series that I put on one of these woke streaming platforms like Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever it is, Amazon, every single one of them seems to have an ass-kicking black female prime minister or president. So I'm like, there's sort of no shortage of this.
Always got to do that. Like, person of colour in a position of power, female, and it has to be female, and preferably lesbian as well. So that would be the optimal, wouldn't it? A black lesbian female position of power, always in it. And you can probably guarantee it in a BBC show, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely you can. Kezia?
Let them make that, and put that on that said to keep Sheila Fogarty happy and people like her happy. And let's just stick to James Bond and just get another Timothy Dalton and everyone's good.
But by the way, if this was Sheila Fogarty just putting herself forward for the job, my team have imagined what type of Bond she might be. But I think that's far too flattering, if I'm honest. I think the suit would have to go up a couple of sizes, if you know what I'm saying.
She is not kicking anyone's butt. She is not kicking ass, that woman. I'll tell you what, they might run away from her because they will get bounced off her maybe, but she is not kicking anyone's butt.
She's like 1 and she talks like a Rottweiler. You crazy? Not getting to
Yeah, I know. By the way, there was another sort of woke story that exploded this week, though. Dawn French, this from Peter Lloyd. Dawn French has been axed from this year's M&S Christmas advert following her anti-Semitic rant against Israel. This is what she said and then later apologised for. Watch.
Complicated. No, but nuanced. But, you know, bottom line is no. Yeah, but, you know, they did a bad thing to us. I mean, yeah, but no. But we want that land and we don't know, you know, got the history and we got, you know, no. Those people, not even people, are they really? No.
Now, I am usually against cancel culture. In fact, I'm always against it. But this one is quite interesting to me, Leilani, because you just know that no one on the right whatsoever, like no one with a political view on the right, even if you weren't controversial, even if it wasn't a controversial view, if you were on the right, there's no way that M&S is signing you up to be part of your M&S Christmas campaign. No way. It just would not happen. So I sort of feel what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And Dawn French has now transformed herself from a sort of beloved comedic figure who stayed out of politics to someone who is on the hard left. And as a result, I actually don't blame M&S for dropping her from the Christmas campaign. Do you?
No, I see what you mean. But, you know, like I'm also a free speech absolutist. So I think she embarrassed herself with just her haircut alone, and then the delivery, and then everything she said, you know, so she embarrassed herself. I don't know that they should have taken that step based on that alone, but they may realise that it's going to affect sales, having somebody like that who hasn't really taken into account that there are still hostages from October 7th being held. So, yeah, I mean, you know, it is what I don't have sympathy for it.
Kezia, what about you?
Yeah.
Like Leilani, I'm a free speech advocate. She has the right to spew Hamas propaganda rubbish that she's read on Hamas.com, whatever it is, where she's getting information from. That, you know, that's her right. But it's also the right for Marks and Spencer's to say, okay, fine, it's our right to say you don't fit with what we're looking for the Christmas season. It's a free market. That's how the free market works. So say what you want, but pay the consequences when it comes to your contracts and you know, any kind of like deals, advertising deals that you're expecting also.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all I would say about this is that there is no way that anyone who expressed even a mildly right-wing political view would ever be booked in an M&S Christmas commercial. I don't think it should be that way. I'd love to see Katie Hopkins as part of that campaign, but you know it wouldn't happen. And I'm sorry, what Dawn French was putting forward in, as Kezia puts it there, Hamas propaganda was far more extreme than anything you'd ever hear Katie Hopkins say. So maybe we need to reach a point of equality where either people can all be booked for jobs, regardless of their political position, or no one can be. But there's a hypocrisy here. And actually, constantly, I see people with these hard left, extreme political views getting big corporate or commercial contracts when no one on the right would get them. And I think it's completely unfair. Breaking right now, GB News caught up in another cancellation row as the mainstream media go hard on Eamonn Holmes for a so-called race shocker after he described Kerry Katona as looking oriental after cosmetic surgery. Now, I think this was always the trap. By the way, she does a little bit. Look at those eyes. Love you, Kerry, though. Love you, Kerry. If it's making you happy, then good on you. But yeah, I see what he means. But look, this is the problem with GB News, and this was always going to happen after the cancellation of Lawrence Fox and myself. You remember Lawrence Fox came on air, said he didn't want to shag a woman called Ava Santina. We were after the watershed. I slightly giggled. All hell broke loose because I wouldn't give some type of dressing down apology to Lawrence live on air. And I always knew that this was going to happen, where GB News, the so-called free speech channel, tried to start forcing its presenters into humiliating on-air apologies. And that's exactly what happened today. And it was awkward because what became quite clear is that Eamonn Holmes did not either want to apologise and did not believe he had to apologise. So I'm going to show you what Eamonn Holmes said in this conversation with Kerry Katona, then watch the botched apology, clearly forced upon him. And Lani Dowding posted on this, why is everyone so offended by everything? Racial slur? My mum used to say Oriental all the time, referring to herself. She prefers it to Asian, which included the whole continent. Differentiating Chinese, Thai, Filipinos, etc. from Indian, Pakistani and Bangladeshi Asians. The offence started in the US and has come here. It's boring. I referred to myself as half Oriental many times, as well as half Filipino if I want to be specific. Don't forget, many have surgery to make themselves look Western, so why can't we talk about some surgery making Westerners' eyes slant more? Are we going to pretend people like my mother don't have eyes that slant? I even have very pronounced folds. Watch what happened.
An uplift, but what I don't like is when children...
You don't look Oriental or anything, do you?
Well, I just wanted the skin removed. I didn't want to change my face. I just wanted the skin that was hanging.
And apparently you're not allowed to describe someone as looking Oriental, or I don't know how I would then describe Kerry Katona if her eyes change shape. I don't know how I'm going to say, does she look like someone from some other country in the eastern of the world? The world is ridiculous. How you have to apologise for people. I mean, if she painted herself, I don't get into this. But anyway,
but Kerry looks beautiful.
Kerry looks well, and I'm sorry if you don't look well and we've offended you in any way, or well, I don't know.
Anyway, do stay with us.
7:32.
Oh my God. That is astonishing, because there are so many parallels between what happened with Lawrence and I. Do you see what Ellie Costello, who is the co-presenter, did? She was trying to sort of just move on from this, and she did exactly what I did. She described Kerry Katona as beautiful. That's what I said about Ava Santina, the woman Lawrence Fox didn't want to shag. And the off-communists decided that it was a misogynistic comment. Well, are they going to say that Ellie Costello was making a misogynistic comment? To my superstar panel, Kezia Noble and the aforementioned Lani Dowding. Lani, this is extraordinary on so many levels. I mean, I do want to speak to you about the comment because, of course, you have these personal feelings given your background. But first, can we just talk about this from the perspective of GB News? Because isn't this the risk when you go down this woke path and you keep trying to force your presenters into apologies that they don't believe? That was actually an incredibly uncomfortable piece of television because he didn't want to apologise.
Yeah, it was extremely awkward, and you can see it. And actually, I don't think he had any reason to apologise. He didn't want to. He was kind of being held hostage, and you can see it. And I'm glad actually it came across that way, because it's getting absolutely ridiculous now. And the crazy thing is it's even more parallel to yours, because I think he actually said, "You don't look Oriental." It was, I don't know if he was being sarcastic, or the headlines in the Daily Mail said he made a racial slur calling her Oriental, but actually I heard him say, well, you don't look Oriental. And so to me, you know, they're saying that you can't use the word Oriental, because that's offensive. And I don't know which bit's meant to be an offensive term, actually, because I'm half Oriental. My mum used the term. Obviously, I'm half Filipino. That's a terrible picture of her that's shown up. And I think he was trying to say that now it's healed a little bit. She doesn't look like her eyes are particularly slanted. But you can see here, you know, I've got these Asian Oriental epicanthal folds. And what? So we're going to pretend that, you know, people from that region, their eyes don't slant. It's all ridiculous. And I can guarantee you that anyone offended would not be Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, Filipino. Guarantee it. I would put money on it. The only offended people are going to be some middle-class white person.
Yeah,
liberal.
I just, Lilani, I mean, has Oriental ever been used as a derogatory term? Because I think it's like something that's quite like, you know, mysterious and glamorous.
Exotic?
And yeah, exactly. It's almost positive. I don't understand how describing something as Oriental is considered inappropriate, but I know that sometimes these rules change.
Well, my mum has always used Oriental to describe herself. If I've ever said Asian, which I'll go back. My mum has always used Oriental. I went to Los Angeles where I heard a couple of Chinese people say, "Oh, we're not Oriental. That's a rug." They were offended, but it's woke LA. So of course, then I go back to my mum and I said, "Well, the people I met in LA say it's really offensive. They like the word Asian." And she's like, "But that's usually used to describe more Southern Asian, like India or Pakistan." So she was never offended. She used the term all the time. I, as a half Filipina, half Oriental, am not offended. And I don't think talking about the shape of somebody's eyes based on their lineage is also, I don't find that offensive either. I mean, we've discussed it so many times, like who's got eyes most like mum? You know, my sister and I say it all the time. So again, it's not going to be us that's offended by it. It will be some, you know, minging liberal just raging at something.
I know. And obviously, GB News has now turned this into a bigger story for forcing Eamonn Holmes to apologise. And Ketty and Hope, what's really interesting for me is one of the reasons why I refused to deliver some type of, you know, ludicrous, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Lawrence Fox, you're a terrible person." I didn't want to do that because I thought that it would also just bring a lot of attention to something unnecessarily, which is why in my case, I did exactly what Ellie Costello did, because you just think, oh God, let's just move on from this. Oh, Kerry Katona is really beautiful. Oh, Ava Santina is really beautiful. But Kezia, does this not show the limitations of GB News as a free speech channel? Because they live in constant fear of the off-communists.
So remember I said at the beginning of the show, there's this poison and it's called the two-tier poison and it infects everything. So why are you being treated differently to this lady? Show me one difference. What does she do and what did you do differently? Because
nothing.
You know,
nothing.
There you go. Yeah, I don't want to say too much about GB News, but I'm finding it now that everything's getting a little bit vanilla on there. I used to watch it and love the characters on there. I loved you. I loved Lawrence Fox on there. I loved I've forgotten his name.
Mark
he's
Stein.
The priest and the priest.
Father Calvin Robinson.
Brilliant. I used to tune in and they always had these different kind of, Lalani used to be on it and they had all these like different voices on the panels. I just watched it a few times. I said, it seems to be like there's a rotation of about 6 people that are on there all the time now. As 6 panelists. I'm not talking about the presenters so much. And I've kind of been like, this is all just getting a bit vanilla. Like I want to see the characters. I want to see those outspoken people. I want to see the mistakes. I want to see the goofs. I want to see someone make a mistake, and that's human being.
I think Lalani, it has moved to the mainstream, hasn't it? Now it's very much ITV daytime style.
That's what they want, I think. It's not quite happened, but that's what they want. That's their goal. But it's taken out the vibrancy and that fun and that just those interesting characters. I used to always think, oh, who are they going to have on next? And now it's like, oh, it's that person again. Okay. So, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Lalani, do you agree?
Yeah, and I think watching them keep on wheeling out the real lefties like Femi and Matthew Stadling is getting really tedious as well. Sitting, through them speaking nonsense to give balance because they have to give their balance. And this is like the stupid thing about it. No one actually believes what they're saying or believes what those people are saying, but they're wheeled on there to appease Ofcom. That's all they've done the entire time. They think if we just feed Ofcom their little tidbits, they'll back off from us. It first happened with Mark Stein, and Mark Stein was brilliant. He was one of the most viewed presenters on there, and then it fed into your show, and it was just great for the evening, and people really wanted to tune in and see what was going from a different perspective, from a thinker's perspective, from somebody that's able to think critically. Now it may as well be, Sky News or Talk TV or the BBC, because it's all just, you know, everyone trying to be careful about what they're saying. No one can speak freely. Everyone's walking on ice. So, you know, are the off communists going to, you know, come after us? So, you know, it's really changed, and it's really sad.
Yeah, no, it really has. But I would say good on Eamonn for not giving a grovelling apology. I think that was the right decision. And he's not scared, which is good. And, you know, good on Ali Costello for describing Kerry Katona as beautiful. But let's just see if there's two-tier treatment here. And I have a feeling there will be. But what a fabulous superstar panel. I always love having Leilani Dowding here and making her debut, Kezia Noble. Now, Kezia, what is your website address and where can we watch your show UK Now on Q News?
So UK Now on Q News, you can find it on YouTube, and you can find it on my X account, Kezia_Noble, and my website is kezia-noble.com.
Amazing. Well, please come back. I've loved having you. And Leilani, hope to see you very, very soon. Thank you both so much. Okay, we're going to reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass in just one moment. Loads of super chats coming in from you, though. So thank you for that. And thank you so much, too, for Marshall Margerson, who has joined Outspoken Plus over the course of the show. So let me get to your super chats first. Philip Shepherd says, I feel we are fighting a battle in this country against this Labour government, but the light always prevails. My God, I hope you're right, Philip. Private Jose B32 says, GoFundMe for Lucy so she can sue the government. Go on, girl. And I will tell you, the GoFundMe that Alison Pearson and myself set up is still live. Steve Forrest says, only reason she's out so she isn't a call to arms. That is an interesting take. Jason Tripp has a proposal. Get Lucy on stage on the 13th so she can hear over 500,000 show their support and chant her name. And lest we forget, Peter Lynch, R.I.P. Absolutely. Alex Marmon writes, to have an idea what losing a child is like for a mother, I suggest that people watch a podcast with Perry Edwards of Little Mix openly breaking down about her 2 miscarriages. You don't get over it. And Alex is, of course, referring to the fact that Lucy Connolly had lost a child, and that's why she was so devastated on the day of the Southport Massacre. And endthedrugwartoday.com says, Dan, I fell in love with the 2 women from earlier, referring to Leilani and Kezia. I missed the whole segment basking in their glory. Thanks. I needed it. Yes, they were great, weren't they? Absolutely brilliant. So good to have them. Okay. The results are in, but a reminder of your Union Jackass nominees for today. Dan Jarvis, nominated by Sarah Booth for looking an absolute glibbering idiot while unable to answer questions from Emma Barnett about where the illegals from Epping will go. Angela Rayner, nominated by Lutmans for sucking up to Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister, and Zia Yusuf, nominated by Darren Donaldson for spreading lies about Robert Jenrick. And in third place with 6% of the vote, Dan Jarvis. The runner-up with 20% of the vote, Zia Yusuf. But whoa, a whopping, overwhelming winner, Angela Rayner with 74% of the vote is your Union Jackass. So straight after the show, I'm going to put up the major poll to find out who is the worst Briton in the world this week. I'm fascinated because I think this is going to be super close. Maybe I'm wrong, but let me just remind you of the nominees. On Monday, it was Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor who was found not guilty despite wanting to slit all the throats. You know who I mean. On Tuesday, it was Benjamin Butterworth. I actually can't remember what for. What had he done? I think he'd said something ludicrous in regard. Oh, no, I know what it was. He said that if you were taking down the if you were raising the colours, if you were putting up the flags, then it meant you were a jobless loser. He was Tuesday. Wednesday, Rachel from Accounts. Rachel Thieves for just destroying the economy. Thursday, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister. I think this could be a really interesting race, actually. So I'm going to put that up on my YouTube in just a couple of minutes in the YouTube or post section, and you can vote there. But today's Greatest Britain is, of course, Lucy Connolly, nominated by Kat Gibbs 4, who says, let's make the 21st of August the Lucy Connolly Day. And it absolutely will be. here on Outspoken. Now, coming up in the Uncancelled After Show on Substack, the Daily Mail's deranged campaign against Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has stepped up a gear with a new hit piece from Liz Jones. So what's really going on? We're joined by royal YouTube sensation, according to Taz. So at this stage, we come off YouTube and Rumble. We move to our own platform to continue the conversation in the Uncancelled After Show. I will ask as well if you can please subscribe and rate and review, because we're now a podcast. Outspoken is now a very successful podcast rising up the charts, and I would really, really love it if you could subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and it makes a real difference to our visibility and our success in the algorithm if you do rate and review. So please, I'd be really grateful. And on Spotify, by the way, you can actually watch us now as a video podcast as well. So that's really good if you want it on the go, if you're not watching live here on YouTube. We are back, though, tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. It is a show tomorrow you do not want to miss. Make sure you are here. Subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. Turn on the notification bell so you will be alerted. Tomorrow's show is going to be unmissable, I promise you. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.